Right now, on to the point. The state's aging 911 system needs an upgrade. With hundreds of millions of dollars already spent, a look at what's holding the project back. Millions of Californians could soon face a rise in healthcare premiums. Tonight, the growing pressure on President Trump and Congress to act.
I was almost at the point where I needed assisted air.
A former football player opens up about the long-term damage he says came from years of hard hits, and the therapy treatment giving him hope. And the holiday travel rush is on.
I really picked a tough day to go.
From flying to driving, how travelers are handling the crowds. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell. And the state of California spent more than 5 years and $450 million upgrading our aging 911 system, only to overhaul its plan and face spending more time and taxpayer money. ABC 10's Becca Hobecker joins us live in studio with more on this tonight. Becca?
Yeah, Alex, the California Office of Emergency Services published a new report this month shedding light on why it paused the statewide rollout of what it calls Next Generation 911. The Sacramento Bee broke this story. And tonight, we show you how much taxpayers have paid so far, what we have to show for it, and how much more this project could cost.
911 emergency, what are you reporting?
Throughout the state, California has about 450 emergency dispatch centers, also known as public safety answering points or PSAPs. California's overall system, what connects all these emergency services, is more than 50 years old. That's why in his first week as governor in 2019, Gavin Newsom vowed to modernize what he called the state's antiquated 911 system. Cal OES led the charge, choosing a unique regional approach with multiple vendors so an outage in one area wouldn't become an outage statewide. From 2019 to 2024, Cal OES says the state paid more than $450 million upgrading to what it calls Next Generation 911. But earlier this year, Cal OES paused the plan. A newly released Cal OES report sheds light on what happened. The good news, system upgrades are in place at every dispatch center statewide, it says, allowing dispatchers to better pinpoint a caller's location and receive text to 911. However, only 23 of the PSAPs have begun the migration for voice calls, and those 23 centers ran into significant operational disruptions, the report says. Cal OES found dispatchers had to handle incoming calls from both the old and new systems while transitioning over, which is a time-consuming and risky process during emergencies. It found the regional system creates interdependencies, delaying issue resolution, so Cal OES paused the rollout and is scrapping the regional plan in favor of a statewide approach. They'll seek just 2 contractors in a process starting early next year, which means more money and more time.
How long have we been paying for the Next Gen system?
I believe it was in the 2019-2020 budget, and that includes the installation of the infrastructure across the 447 PSAPs.
And how long did we say then it was going to take?
The last time we were before this body, we assumed that we would be completed by the end of this year.
The new Cal OES report says it now plans to complete the transition to statewide Next Generation 911 by 2030. The report doesn't give a cost estimate, but the Sacramento Bee talked with the chief operating officer of one of the vendors paid by the state to build the now scrapped regional design, who said the change will cost taxpayers even more money, estimating hundreds of millions more. The Cal OES report says the expenditures between 2019 and fall 2025 for Next Generation 911 in California were substantial but not lost. The intent will be to build upon a large component of the infrastructure that already exists.
I reached out to Cal OES and the governor's office today for comment. Cal OES did not get back to me by deadline, and the governor's office directed me to Cal OES. Alex?
All right, Becca, thank you. Open enrollment is underway for Covered California, but with the looming threat of skyrocketing healthcare premiums, California leaders are urging President Trump and Congress to take action. Right now, there are talks of a White House plan to extend subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, halting the anticipated increase of healthcare premiums. President Donald Trump's plan is expected to include a 2-year extension of Obamacare subsidies and new limits on eligibility. The announcement was scheduled for yesterday, but was delayed after pushback from Republicans.
Well, you know, it's a complicated piece of legislation, so I'm sure that it's just allowing a little more time to build consensus.
They've been bad-mouthing the Affordable Care Act for 14 years and claiming they have their own plan, and we still haven't seen it.
Healthcare was at the center of the government shutdown, which ended with the promise of a December Senate vote extending ACA subsidies until Congress or Trump take action. The subsidies will expire. That will affect the 2 million Californians insured under Covered California. California is suing the Trump administration again, this time over funding restrictions on homeless services. The Trump administration recently placed funding restrictions on the Continuum of Care grant program. That's the federal government's program for funding affordable housing and other services for people at risk of and experiencing homelessness. California Attorney General Rob Bonta and 18 other attorneys general filed the lawsuit, asking the court to declare the restrictions unlawful and stop them from taking effect. And the crowded race for California governor, well, it just got a little bit smaller. Democratic candidate Stephen Klubeck announced he's actually dropping out of the race and endorsing Bay Area Congressman Eric Swalwell. Both appeared on CNN last night to make the announcement. Klubeck is the first former candidate to endorse another candidate in the race. The FBI says it started scheduling interviews with Democratic lawmakers who appeared in a social media video urging U.S. troops to defy illegal orders. This is a story that we were following from yesterday. This would be the second investigation tied to the video. Yesterday, the Pentagon said it was reviewing Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona over potential violations of military law. The FBI and Pentagon actions come after President Trump accused the lawmakers of sedition and said it is, quote, punishable by death in a social media post. Planes, trains, and automobiles, how millions of Americans are dealing with a very busy holiday travel week. And a former football player shares his lifelong impact of repeated head trauma. Tonight, the new treatment that is giving hope for people living with traumatic brain injuries.
And Thanksgiving travel, a little bit difficult across Northern California, especially in the valley. We've got more dense fog tomorrow morning and Thanksgiving morning, too. Forecast after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight. An ultrasound technician in Turlock is behind bars, accused of sexually assaulting a patient during a medical exam. Police confirm 45-year-old Eugene Penetakin had been arrested in a case for similar allegations. Police believe there are more victims and encourage anyone who experienced inappropriate conduct to call Turlock police. Nigeria's president says all 24 schoolgirls held by assailants have been rescued. The girls were abducted last week from a government school. One of them was able to escape. No details were released about the rescue. And Farmers Insurance is writing new policies again. Effective immediately, they are open for homeowners, condo, and renters policies. The company is also requesting a rate increase of 6.9% and plan to offer a discount of 22% for customers who bundle their home and auto insurance. Well, the Thanksgiving holiday rush is on right now. According to the FAA, 52,000 flights were planned to take off today in what is expected to be the busiest day at airports. Nearly 18 million passengers are expected to fly for the holiday.
Really picked a tough day to go.
Everything is going to be smooth. It's a direct flight, so
Great. Got here pretty early.
Got here early. We planned for that.
Getting there early, always a great sign. Gas prices close to their lowest level in 4 years. AAA says today, tomorrow, and Sunday will be the busiest on the roads. And while today is shaping up to be the busiest air travel day, it is also taking off smoothly as staffing levels for TSA agents and air traffic controllers are fully staffed. But I want to get to meteorologist Brendan Minchef because he is also tracking what you need to know on the roads. We're going to continue to see some of that fog, right?
Yeah, it's all about the fog. Can't stress that enough. Really, if you don't talk about the fog, everything else is just fine, right? Temperature is going to be fine, no rain, no snow, travel's fine. But in the valley where we've got that thick fog, like what we had today, travel is going to be rough, especially during the first half of the day. We did end up with some clearing in the Sacramento area and down in the valley between Sacramento and Stockton, but south of Stockton, that fog really never lifted, so it was another gray day for most of the valley, but we did get a little bit of sunshine up near the capital city. 47 right now, though, in Sacramento, 47 in Elk Grove, 50 in Stockton, 49 Manteca, 51 Modesto, 48 in Placerville, 34 Truckee, 35 in South Lake Tahoe. And now that we've lost that sun, the clear skies are actually allowing us to cool down a little bit more than last night. So we're 3 degrees cooler than 24 hours ago. Temperatures 47 right now in Sacramento. We'll continue to fall through the 40s, but those low clouds do start to build back in. Dense fog advisory begins again at midnight, and that's when we've got that fog through the overnight and through Wednesday morning. So weather impact alert, it's not necessarily going to be any different from what we've seen the last few mornings, but because so many more people are likely to get on the roads tomorrow, and Thursday. That's why we've got that weather impact alert, because it is going to be very foggy. 41 to start Wednesday morning in Sacramento, 42 Stockton, 42 in Modesto, 30s out near Vacaville, Fairfield, 40s in the foothills, teens and 20s in the high country. Wednesday afternoon, some afternoon clearing like what we saw today. Highs ranging from those mid-50s to about 60 degrees. I've got 58 in Sacramento, 57 Vacaville, 58 in Fairfield, 60 Stockton, 59 Modesto. But look at the foothills. Plenty of sunshine. Temperature is going to be warmer in places like Placerville than it will be in the valley tomorrow. So that fog begins to build back in by the time we get towards about 10 o'clock. Again, midnight, we see that dense fog advisory go back into effect. Dense fog through the morning on Wednesday. Some lifting as the day goes on. Then that fog returns once again Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So again, weather impact alert there for the dense fog, low visibility, difficult travel. Just drive safely and remember not to use the high beam lights, because that makes it harder for you and other folks to see. That light reflects off the water droplets in the clouds. High pressure starts to move out of here after Thanksgiving. That will be just enough to break up that fog, not allow that fog to form. So clearing skies are coming this weekend. In the foothills, though, and in the Sierra, for the most part, it is going to be warmer the next couple of days than what we've got in the valley with that fog and the low clouds. Temperatures, though, over the next 10 days, even into December, upper 50s, low 60s, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Right after the break, we sit down with a former college athlete who says a new type of treatment is giving him hope after years of struggling with head trauma. Pain, confusion, and fear are just some of the common symptoms for people experiencing suspected chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE for short. But a new type of therapy is shining a light on ways to prevent and treat the disease. Tonight, we want to introduce you to a former athlete who says that this new therapy has had a life-changing impact.
I probably had at least 8 to 10 concussions in high school. We used to laugh about, oh, he's seeing stars, oh, you got your bell rung. Those are all signs of a concussion.
It was in high school when Rico discovered his love for football. As a linebacker, he was drawn to the game's intensity and strategy. He didn't just play football, he studied it and went on to play for Oregon State. But by the time he started,
I was up to probably 25 concussions, and I had had 3 hospitalized. I would go out and have my first hit at practice and then go puke in a corner because I was so disoriented and having balance issues. The migraines and head pressure I had, I was taking 1,200 milligrams of Advil a day.
The wear and tear on his body through the years would ultimately halt his professional career. But in 2021, as he entered his 40s, everything began to change. After a major family crisis, Rico suddenly found himself stressed and overwhelmed. Deep down, he knew his body was reacting to more.
I was having restless leg syndrome where I was literally tearing holes in my sheets. I was almost at the point where I needed assisted air. I would walk somewhere or just be sitting and just start sweating profusely. I had massive head pressure, tinnitus, just came out of nowhere. I was having light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, depression. I got to a point where even going to work, I was starting to have suicidal ideation. I was thinking about, driving off the bridge that crosses the Sacramento River, going to West Sac.
That's when Rico decided to get help. Every diagnosis seemed to point back to one thing: neurological issues. Rico sharing his brain scans revealed extensive damage.
One of the neurologists shared it with a fellow neurologist who didn't know my history. And the neurologists commented that they thought I was a victim of a gunshot wound to the head because I had had so much damage to the left frontal lobe of my brain.
Dr. Margaret Naser is a research professor of neurology at Boston University School of Medicine. She's extensively researched the effects of traumatic brain injuries and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE.
CTE is a progressive neurodegenerative disease where there is repetitive trauma to the brain itself. It happens over years and years.
There is no cure for CTE and currently no way to diagnose it in a living person. An official diagnosis can only be made after death through examination of brain tissue.
And they look at the brain and they find abnormal protein deposits And as it goes over time, the whole brain is covered.
According to the Cleveland Clinic, CTE permanently destroys nerve cells in the brain, causing significant changes in behavior, mood, and cognitive function. CTE can affect memory, decision-making, and problem-solving. It can also impact the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation, leading some people to experience anxiety, depression, mood swings, and thoughts of self-harm. Motor function can also be affected, causing balance problems and loss of coordination. CTE has gained growing attention over the years, not just in professional athletes, but also in everyday people and veterans who have suffered repeated head injuries. Researchers are still trying to determine why CTE develops in some people, but not in others.
This is red and near infrared light.
In an effort to reclaim his life, Rico enrolled in a study through the University of Utah.
I didn't know how bad I was until I started doing some of these tests. I couldn't walk a straight line, couldn't do a figure-8 test. Memory tests, they'd show me pictures of a cat, a dog, a bird, a fish. I would remember, out of 8 things, I would remember maybe 1 or 2.
The study uses red light therapy developed by a company called V-Light.
Our devices are all recognized to be low-risk general wellness.
V-Light uses wavelength technology to shine light through the scalp and reach parts of the brain. It helps wake up cells in mitochondria to produce more energy to help the brain's cells heal.
In our case, we use one through the nose. It's the most logical way to reach the brain because there's nothing between the light source and the brain.
The company has conducted multiple studies involving people with traumatic brain injuries, Alzheimer's disease, and military-related head trauma, and is currently seeking FDA approval. Rico says after about 2 weeks of using the device, his sleeping, energy, and cognition started to improve.
I was able to do all those tests without issue. By the 6-month study, it was like game day.
Rico is hopeful about this new treatment, and he hopes by sharing his experience, it gives other people hope.
They're scared. Their families are scared. They want to keep their job. They're living in silence. They're suffering needlessly because they don't know what to do about it.
If you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would you say?
Well, it's interesting because when I first understood that this was the condition, I still was defending football because I love it. I love the game. I love what it did for me. You know, I think about things that matter now, which is like seeing my daughter get married, you know, walk her down the aisle, or seeing my son be successful with his career. Is that 4 years or, 8 years of playing a sport worth a lifetime of the pain? And I think there's a lot of changes in science right now. There's a lot of exciting things. Maybe CTE will eventually be something of the past. Maybe a combination of better safety practices with sport, limiting ages to play, treatments and protocols that work like this, that maybe future generations won't have to endure this.
Now, there is an NFL team evaluating this new treatment. Also, world champions and MVPs from tennis, basketball, UFC, MMA, just to name a few, have used V-Light for a number of years. And I also just want to say, Rico, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. You were incredibly brave, and we are thrilled to see you doing so well. We're back after this break. ABC 10, Wells Fargo, and The Athletics are teaming up for our annual Stand Against Hunger campaign, which means now through December 12th, ABC 10 is raising money for 7 local food banks to help feed people in need this holiday season. So far, your generosity has raised more than $340,000. Thank you so much. For a list of participating food banks and also how you can help, you can always go to abc10.com/standagainsthunger. And I also want to mention streaming now on the free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app, the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Watch the yearly anticipated high-energy holiday show right from your couch. You can start watching it today, and it's also going to be Wednesday at 8 p.m., then Thursday through Sunday at 1 p.m. and 8 p.m., and then the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app is free to download wherever you stream, so you can watch anytime if you're looking for something to do during the holidays with your family. There you go. As always, thank you so much for watching and for inviting us into your home. If you have something you think we should be looking into, you can always email the team. I'll see you right back here tomorrow.